In this video series, we'll be looking at Office 2007 and 2010 Excel. I've got 2010, but it looks and pretty much works exactly the same way as it is in 2007. So I'm going to start with the basic concepts behind Excel in this video. So if you already know the basics, you may just get bored, so you can skip to the other videos and you can look at the description as to what I'm going to cover. So this is a really basic introduction to Excel. So before we start with the Excel, I just want to talk about the parts of Microsoft Office. And one of the major difference you'll find in Office 2007 and 2010 is that there is this file button here. Instead of the file button, in your case, if you have 2007, you'll see a round button which is called the Office button. And it has pretty much the same functions except for some of these options here, which are a little different. This section here is called the Quick Access Toolbar right over the top. And you can customize it. Like right now I have the Print Preview button there, so I can click here and I can choose Print Preview. I can even add the Print button. I can also add the Spelling button. If I wanted, I could even add more commands. And I can even choose even more commands to add to my list here. I can even click here and say show me all commands. Now here you can see all the commands that you can add to your list. So this up here is called the quick access. So whatever you need all the time, the buttons, you can add it to this list so that you don't have to go to different places. Then we have these buttons here called the Home, Insert, Page Layout. These guys are called the tabs. Within each tabs there are different what they call ribbons, where they have different buttons. So Home has these ribbons, Insert has some ribbons, Page Layout has some ribbons, Formulas has some ribbons. So each and every tab has different ribbons. This up here is called the name box. For now, all you can see that is like when I click on any cell here, it shows me I'm in C1, which is column C and intersecting with row 1, so it becomes C1. In Excel, this is the most important element, which is known as a cell reference, because I am referencing a cell. When I click here, this is column C, row 5, so this cell is called C5, which the name box tells me. Let's click on A1 again. This up here is called the formula bar, which we will look at it once I type something from formulas. Here you see why it's called a formula bar, which we'll be looking at in 10 minutes. So, and these are columns, and these are rows. The rows can go all the way down to like 100,000 something, and it keeps going down if you went down, and you can even go across. It goes to A, B, C, D all the way up to Z, and then further on. You can use the down arrows to go down. Now you see I'm on row 49. I can even use this to go back up, and there is the going across button on the corner. In Excel, you can have many different sheets. You can have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and you can add as many sheets you want. Even though you have even 10, 20 different sheets, it is still one book, so you only have to save it one time and not multiple times. You also have the option to zoom, the plus and the minus sign in the corner. If you click on the plus sign, it just makes the screen bigger, so it's just easy to see rather than having the cells smaller. Now this does not make a change to your actual printout. It only makes a change to your information right now as you see it. So let's start with Excel. I'm in the cell A1. I'm going to start with entering and editing. So I'm just going to go and type 12 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I can either hit enter on the keyboard at this point, or I can use this check mark button, which stands for enter. The X stands for cancel, which means cancel what I'm doing. I can hit enter. That's it to entering. I can just type my name, even a number next to it, and I hit enter. And when I hit enter on the keyboard, it goes to the next cell, so I can continue typing. So that's entering. If I want to edit, so say for example, I want to remove the number 5 from the cell A1, I can take my mouse and I can double click on the cell. So I just take my mouse and click between 5 and 6, and now I have the cursor blinking in there. Now I can hit backspace and I hit enter. The same way, say I wanted to put the 5 back, I take my mouse and look in the formula bar. Whatever I type here in A1 shows up in the formula bar. So I just take my mouse, click between 4 and 6, and I type 5, and I hit enter. So that's entering and editing. If I want to delete something, say I want to delete this from this cell. So I just click on that cell, hit delete, and it is gone. I can click on that A1, hit delete, and it is gone. I can use the undo button to bring it back. That's the backwards button on the top. It's called undo. Just go back, go back. So it's a good button to use whenever you make a mistake. I can even highlight things like this or extra ones and hit delete, and it will delete everything I've highlighted. So using the delete button on the keyboard. So let's start with doing some basic calculations. In Excel, the whole idea is to do formulas and calculation. So I'm just going to enter some numbers here. So I just type 2341 in the respective cells, and I use the tab key to go tab. So I use the tab key on the keyboard so I can go to the next cell so I can type faster. Whenever you do a calculation in Excel, you have to use the equal sign. When you type the equal sign, Excel understands that, okay, I have to do a calculation now. I'm not just entering a word or a number. So if I type equal, and I want to do a calculation which will add 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 1. Now I could type that in here, 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 1. However, in Excel, we always use the cell reference. So in this case, number 2 is A1, number 3 is B1, number 4 is C1, number 1 is D1. So I could type it manually, A1, put a plus sign, or I can just take my mouse and click on the cell, and it will fill that information in that calculation. Put a plus sign, click on C1, plus sign, click on D1. So A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1. And now I hit enter. Now while I'm in that cell, you can look at the formula bar and you'll find that I see the number 10, but when I look at the formula bar, I see that it's not actually number 10, it's a calculation. Equal A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1. Now make sure you don't put any plus sign after the D1 because there is no cells coming after that to do any calculation. Now the benefit of this is, if I click on any one of these cells on A1 and say I type 2.25 and I hit enter, the total automatically starts to get calculated. So if I click here and I type 8.25, enter, now the total is 14.5. Because this cell, all it is going to keep doing is add the A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1 and put the total there. I can go back here, type 4 and type 2. And you can do any calculation. I can just click anywhere. I can click here, equal, click on any of the cell, put a divide sign, click on another cell, enter. Equal, click on any of the cell, multiply by any other cell. I get the answer. So on this sheet you can go anywhere till the time you follow the proper format you'll get your calculation. Just delete that. Now I'm going to come here and I want to edit my formula, so I can either edit it in the formula bar, or I can even just double click here, remove the plus sign, put a multiplication, and now before I hit enter, I just want you to look at this. If you look at this calculation right now, you will think the result will be is a1 plus b1, which is 3 plus 2 is 5, then multiply by c1, 5 fours are 20, 20 plus 1 is 21. However, when I hit enter, I get the result 15. This is because in math there is a rule which dictates what should be done first and what should be done second when you have multiple operations going on. Like in this case, I have addition and multiplication going on. So for that, there is an acronym called BADMAS. B stands for brackets, E stands for exponents, you know, when you do 2 raised to 2, D stands for division, I can put that sign, M stands for multiplication, plus addition, and subtraction. I'm going to put the division sign here. For some reason I cannot put the division sign. It's the slash, the forward slash is the division sign. So if you look at this acronym BADMAS, in this example where we had addition and multiplication, you see multiplication comes before addition, so it will do b1 multiplied by c1 first. So it will be 4 3s are 12. Then it goes from the left, adds a1, which is 2, and then it adds d1, which is 1. So it will be 4 3s are 12, 12 plus 2 is 14, 14 plus 1 is 15. However, if you understand the use of brackets, you don't have to worry about the rest. So let me show you what will happen. So I'm just going to double click here, put the bracket in front of a1, so I press shift and 9 on the keyboard, press shift and 0 around b1. Now if I hit enter, I get the result 21 because I'm forcing Excel to do the brackets first. So that means it will do 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 fours are 20, 20 plus 1 is 21. Same way, if I put the bracket around C1 and D1 and I hit enter, now I get the result 25 because bracket 1 will be done first, which will be A1 plus B1, then it will do C1 plus D1, and then it does the multiplication. So you get the idea that this is where you can use brackets, because at the end of the day you decide what is the result you are looking for. Are you looking for the result 21? Do you want 15? Or if I want, I can get another result if I remove the brackets around B1 and A1. Now I'll get the result 17 because the brackets around C1 plus D1, so it will do that first. So that's your first calculations at play if you've never done any calculations in Excel. That's like the basic example. I'm just going to click on this cell and I'm going to hit delete. Now earlier we had done a simple calculation equal A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1. Now you don't even have to do this because they have created what's called functions. Now functions are predefined formulas. What they do is, like, there is a function called sum, which stands for summation. So all I have to do is put a function summation and put the range in a bracket to do the calculation. So let me show you what I mean. So all I do is type equal sum, start the bracket. That means I want summation of, and now I just bring my mouse over A1, left click and hold the left click down, and I just drag over it. So you see it automatically filled up A1 colon D1. That means from A1 through D1. And you can do a summation of any range. You can do it from A1 through Z1. You just have to make sure that you are not typing the formula in that range. You have to be outside that range. I close the bracket and the calculation is done. It even gets easier to do the auto sum. All I do is highlight, including the empty cell, and right here in the corner there is the symbol which is like an opposite E, which when you point to it, it says sum. If I just click it, you see it puts the total 10, and there is my equal to sum formula. Okay. Same way, when I click here next in the drop down button next to the summation, I can even use an average function, and the idea is the same. If you wanted, you could just type equal average, start the bracket, highlight the range. But you could even use it using this shortcut button. I start the average. It's trying to make a guess that you want an average of E1, which is not right. And E1 is already highlighted. It means I can change it right now. So I just come and highlight A1 through D1. So you see in one step, it adds the numbers together, which is 10, and divides it by 4. The answer is 2.5. I can also start the function called max, highlight the same range. So this tells me that the highest value in this range is 4. I go to the next cell, and if I want, I can start a function called min. And I highlight the same range. So it will tell me that the minimum value in this range is 1. Okay. And you can always, as I said, you can just type manually equal min, start the bracket, highlight the range, close the bracket. Done. I'm just going to come here and type some numbers here. Now before I do this next exercise, a calculation, I want to show you something. When I highlight these cells, these 4 cells, and I want to highlight this cell 7, 8, 9, when I try to do that, I lose the original highlights. So what I have to do is, after highlighting the first time, let go of your mouse, everything. Press and hold the control button down on your keyboard. Then take your mouse, left click and hold the left click on 7, 8, 9 and then drag. Now you see, because I was holding the control button down, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 7, 8, 9 are highlighted. The 7 looks like it's not highlighted, but it is still highlighted. Now if I go back and hold the control button again and I keep clicking in cells, you see I can keep the highlights is not lost. As soon as I click somewhere without the control, I lose all my highlights. So what I want to do here is in this cell E5, I want to do a summation of this cell and this cell. So what I do is I start the auto sum. So I just click on the E symbol, the sum auto sum button, and it automatically puts the equal and sum for me. I don't even have to type the equal sign when I'm using the auto sum. Again, it tries to make a guess that you want to do a summation of this E2 to E4, which is not right. I'm going to highlight the first range, let go of it, hold the control button down, highlight the second range. Now if you look in the formula, it automatically put A1 colon D1 comma A5 colon C5. I hit enter and I have my summation total. Now if I wanted to do a summation of one range and subtract a summation of another range, I cannot use the auto sum button. I have to do the whole thing manually. So I just type equal sum, start the bracket, highlight the first range, close the bracket, put a minus sign. Now instead of minus, you could put multiply, divide, whatever. Sum, start the bracket, highlight the second range. Now it's very important that you put sum in front of both the brackets, because if it wasn't there, Excel would not understand what to do with the range. Sum, max, min, what is it that you would like to do? And I hit enter. Now I have my total. You can always pause the video at any time. If you found that you wanted to repeat, go back to the previous minutes and listen to it and practice. So I'll just go to the next part of this video, in which I'm going to talk about what is called fill handle. So I'm going to go to sheet 2. On sheet 2, I've already typed a few things. I'm just going to increase the zoom. Okay. I click on Monday. Now if you look in the corner, the right hand corner of Monday, there is that tiny square. When I point to it, it becomes like a tiny hair plus sign. That is called a fill handle. Now be careful, because sometimes you might use this guy, the arrow with a plus sign. Now that is not a fill handle. This is a fill handle. Left click and hold it and then drag. I'm just going to do up to Sunday, and it fills up the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays for you. If you dragged even further after Sunday, it will go back to Monday. Now instead of January, I type Jans and use the fill handle, drag it. It only types the first 3 characters. If I type January, it will do February, March, the whole thing. Now for the 2001, 2002, because it's a number, I have to give Excel both the numbers. And then I have to come here and highlight. Now make sure you click in the middle of the cell, left click and hold it and drag. That's highlighting. And then look for the fill handle, left click and hold it and drag. Now it does an increment of 1 year. If I had put 2001, 2003, it will have done an increment of 2 years. Now if I want, I can just highlight all the phone numbers, look for the fill handle, left click and hold it and drag, and it is done. Now let's look at a little bit more practical application of fill handle. In this cell A6, I want to do a very simple calculation. All I want to do is equal this number 1 plus number 2, which is A4 and A5. So I do equal, take my mouse, click on this cell where is number 1, A4, plus click on the next cell, A5, and I hit enter. Now this cell is A4 plus A5. Up here I want B4 plus B5, so it will give me the total 6. Up here I'm in row C, so it will be C4 plus C5. Instead of doing this one at a time, I can just click on the cell, look for the fill handle, copy it. It's called filling, it's called copying it. So now what it does is it automatically takes the plus sign, which is the formula, and it copies it. But when it goes to the next cell, it automatically changes the A4 and A5 to B4 and B5 if you look in the formula bar. And then in the C it becomes C4 and C5, and then D4, and so on and so forth. So fill handle is really handy when you want to just do the calculation one time. Use the fill handle and fills it up. I'm going to come to this cell H4. What I want to do here, I want to do a summation of everything in front of it. So what I do is I highlight, including the empty cell, and I click the auto sum. And when I click on this cell where it is 28, and I look at the formula bar, I see the summation function automatically. Now make sure we're going to use the fill handle that you don't have this whole thing highlighted, and then use the fill handle, because I don't want to change these numbers. I only want to use the formula and use the fill handle on the formula. So click on that cell, look for the fill handle, copy it down, and you are done. Now when it is going down the row, it will change the row in the calculation. So up here in the formula bar it says A4 through G4. In the next cell it will say A5 through G5. So fill handle is a very useful tool. If you look here on the top for Wednesday, you see the whole Wednesday, some of the characters are missing. I can see it in the formula bar, but not here. So what I do is I bring my mouse here. When I bring my mouse between C and D on the top between the columns, I get that symbol and I double click and it automatically expands. I can even go to another cell, left click and hold it, and I can drag it manually if I wanted. Okay. So that's the ending of fill handle. On sheet 3 I have some practical examples that you can look at which kind of ties everything together. Just going to increase the zoom. Now in this first exercise, this is just like, we have a regular price and this is a discount, $10 off. I forgot to add a column there for sale price, so this is a good exercise. And also I made a mistake. I'm going to click here on text and there is an option here for insert, and I'll insert sheet column, so it will put a column in front of it. And I'll click here and I'll type sale price. So if I want to calculate sale price, I'm just going to fix this here. Cut it, paste. Before you start doing anything in Excel, you want to have the basic math idea in your head. So if you think about the sale price, how do you find the sale price? Sale price will be the regular price minus the discount. So I do equal, click on the regular price. See, I don't even think B2, I just think regular price and I click on the cell, minus the discount, which is 10. That's what you would do, 55 minus 10. But instead of that, in Excel, we always use cells in our calculations, not the numbers. Because if the numbers changed, we would have a problem. Enter. Now say the tax is 8%. 8% of what? 8% of 45. So I do equal, click on the cell for sale price, which is 45, multiply by 8%. You can either type 8% or 0.08, same thing. Total price is equal this cell plus this cell. Now I could have even used the auto sum, same thing. Now I can highlight all of these 3 cells where I did my calculation, look for the fill handle, and I'm done. I can highlight all of the numbers, and then there is this dollar symbol. Click it and it puts the dollar symbol on it. It also has option when you click on the drop down, if you are in UK or Euro, Chinese, and there are some more accounting formats that you can go to, and then you can look for whatever format that you need to use and click it and then click OK. Now this is another example which is like say you are working somewhere, you work 40 hours a week. This is the amount of money you make, $18 an hour. So we want to find out what is your total pay. Then I want to figure out what is the tax on that gross pay and what is the net pay. So I've just have tax 1. I'll just make up some taxes. Say this is 3%. Tax 2 is 5%. Tax 3 is 7%, for example. So the gross pay is equal to hours that you work, which is 40, multiplied by the number of dollars you make per hour. What is your pay? So it is B8 multiplied by C8. Enter. I go to the next cell. Tax is 3%. The tax 1 is 3%. Let me fix this. It just looks like it says 13%. 3% of what? 3% of the gross pay. So all I have to do is equal gross pay multiply by 3%. Enter. Next tax is equal 5% of the gross pay. So I just click on the gross pay, multiply by 5%. Tax 3 is equal to 7% of the gross pay. So same thing, gross pay, multiply by 7%. Now we come to the net pay, which is You take your gross pay, subtract the taxes, and you get your net pay. And here the brackets can come into play. So I just do equal gross pay minus, in the brackets I'm going to add the individual taxes together. So when someone looks at it, they can understand that all the things in the brackets are added and they are removed from the gross pay. So the taxes are added together, and I hit enter. So I've got the total 612. I'm going to do the same calculation a little different way with sum equal to gross pay minus summation of, start the bracket and highlight the three taxes. So I don't have to do them individually. I could do that. Enter. Highlight all the calculations. Now make sure you don't highlight the numbers 40 and 18 because that's not my calculations. These are my calculations. Highlight it. Look for the fill handle. Copy it down. And I'm done. And I can do the same thing here. Highlight all the dollar values, not the hours per week, and put the dollar symbol. And there's my things ready. Now one of the things we haven't done since starting, we haven't saved our work, so we'll do that right now. You can use the save button here on the top, the floppy drive, or in my case with 2010 I can click on the file and click save. In your case you can click on the office button, which is the round circular button, and you can click save. Now I'm in a habit of always creating folders, so it's always good to do that. So I can click new folder, type a name in there, double click on it, and then give it a file name. I can call it Excel 1 or whatever. Now before you save it, if you wanted to save it as a 2003 format, because by default Excel files created in 2007 and 2010 cannot be opened in 2003. So if you wanted to send it to somebody, you can right away save this up here as 2003 format. For now, I'll just save it as an Excel workbook, which is the new format, and I'll show it to you again how you can save this as a different format. And I click save. The file is saved. Now if I wanted to save this as the 2003 format, I can click on save as and then choose 2003 format, so I can have it in both formats. Just going to hit cancel on that. Now we'll just look at some of the functions in terms of page setup, where you can change the margins and the page layout, which is portrait or landscape, and also some of the features in Excel. In the page layout tab, you can change the margins from here. If you found that your information is not fitting in one page, you can reduce the margin to force it to fit in one page. You also have the option to change the orientation. However, I like to use this button here in the corner of page setup. When you click it, it opens this window, and I like to use this window for a lot of my stuff, which is the way it used to be in 2003. I'm just going to click close and show it to you again. This button right here. Click it. Now I can change it from portrait to landscape, which is it goes sideways rather than standing up. I can even go to print preview from here. I click it. It shows me what my information will look like. In your case, it might look a little different in 2007, which is fine. And in 2007, in the left hand corner, you'll see the word page setup that you can click on to go back to the page setup option. I'm just going to click on page setup here on the bottom. So if you have 2010, you can follow me, and it comes to this page setup window. I can adjust to, which is I can increase the font size to bigger. So if I want, I can say make it 125%, which is 25% larger than normal. I click OK. Now you see my information has become a little bigger. I can go back to page setup, and on the top you'll see an option for margins. In the margins, you can change the margins here on the top or bottom, left and right. I can also, if I wanted, put my information in the center of the page. So I put a check mark in horizontally and vertically and I click OK. Now my information is in the center of the page. So remember, for 2007, while you are in print preview, look on the left hand corner, just around where you see the home tab. In my case, you see a word called page setup that will take you back to the page setup window, which is this window. So I can do headers, margins. The next thing you can do is headers and footers. You can choose one of these headers from here, like page number and things like that, or you can do a custom header. Click in the center and you can type whatever you want. Name. Click in another section, say on the right hand side, and you can use these buttons to add page numbers. Click OK. Click OK, and there is on the top, it's got my name and the page number. I can go back to page setup. The last option there, called sheet, in the print section there is an option for grid lines. If you put a check mark there and click OK, you'll find that you get a dotted line on your Excel spreadsheet that you did not have before, and that is called grid lines. So in the page setup sheet, look for the print section and put a check mark for grid lines. You can, if you are in 2007, you can click on the X close on the top to get out of print preview, or you can hit the escape key on the keyboard. In 2010, when I'm in print preview, I can hit escape to get out of there, or when I'm in print preview, I can just click on home and I come back to the screen. Now let's just look at the briefly options for printing. File and print. In 2007, you will click the Office button, the circular round button on the left hand corner. Click print. In 2007, a window pops open asking you what to print. In 2010, it looks a little different. So when it comes to printing, you can print the active sheet, which is usually the way it is, or the entire workbook, which means all the sheets, or you can choose to print selection if you had highlighted something. In 2007, in the print window, on the left hand side bottom, you will see some option for same things: active sheet, entire workbook, and print selection. So you will see the same options there. I can choose to have a number of copies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many copies do I want? You will see that same option in 2007, but on the right hand side of the print window. You can also print how many, which page to which page. So say for example, I had like hundreds of rows and I only wanted to print page 1 to 2. I can choose to do that. And then I just have to hit print up here in 2010. In 2007, you look for the print button on the bottom and that will start printing. You can close Excel. It's asking me to save. I can hit save. If I wanted to open the Excel file, I can go back to where the file is, or I can just start Excel and then choose File and Open. In 2007, you'll use the Office button and open, or you'll see there is the first file right there on the top, Excel 1. Or I can click Open and there is the Excel 1 file. Double click on it and it opens the file. So that's it for this basic introduction to Excel. In the next video, I'll be getting into a little bit more details with absolute references, if functions, conditional formatting, and some formatting features available in Excel. Thank you for watching. Sheets, you can have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and you can add as many sheets you want. Even though you have even 10, 20 different sheets, it is still one book, so you only have to save it one time and not multiple times. You also have the option to zoom, the plus and the minus sign in the corner. If you click on the plus sign, it just makes the screen bigger, so it's just easy to see rather than having the cells smaller. Now this does not make a change to your actual printout. It only makes a change to your information right now as you see it. So let's start with Excel. I'm in the cell A1. I'm going to start with entering and editing. So I'm just going to go and type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I can either hit enter on the keyboard at this point, or I can use this check mark. In this video series, we'll be looking at Office 2007 and 2010 Excel. I've got 2010, but it looks and pretty much works exactly the same way as it is in 2007. So I'm going to start with the basic concepts behind Excel in this video. So if you already know the basics, you may just get bored, so you can skip to the other videos and you can look at the description as to what I'm going to cover. So this is a really basic introduction to Excel. So before we start with the Excel, I just want to talk about the parts of Microsoft Office. And one of the major difference you'll find in Office 2007 and 2010 is that there is this file button here. Instead of the file button, in your case, if you have 2007, you'll see a round button which is called the Office button. And it has pretty much the same functions except for some of these options here, which are a little different. This section here is called the Quick Access Toolbar right over the top. And you can customize it. Like right now I have the Print Preview button there, so I can click here and I can choose Print Preview. I can even add the Print button. I can also add the Spelling button. If I wanted, I could even add more commands. And I can even choose even more commands to add to my list here. I can even click here and say show me all commands. Now here you can see all the commands that you can add to your list. So this up here is called the Quick Access. So whatever you need all the time, the buttons, you can add it to this list so that you don't have to go to different places. Then we have these buttons here called the Home, Insert, Page Layout. These guys are called the tabs. Within each tabs there are different what they call ribbons, where they have different buttons. So Home has these ribbons, Insert has some ribbons, Page Layout has some ribbons, Formulas has some ribbons. So each and every tab has different ribbons. This up here is called the name box. For now, all you can see that is like when I click on any cell here, it shows me I'm in C1, which is column C and intersecting with row 1, so it becomes C1. In Excel, this is the most important element, which is known as a cell reference, because I am referencing a cell. When I click here, this is column C, row 5, so this cell is called C5, which the name box tells me. Let's click on A1 again. This up here is called the formula bar, which we will look at it once I type something from formulas. Here you see why it's called a formula bar, which we'll be looking at in 10 minutes. So, and these are columns, and these are rows. The rows can go all the way down to like 100,000 something, and it keeps going down if you went down, and you can even go across. It goes to A, B, C, D all the way up to Z, and then further on. You can use the down arrows to go down. Now you see I'm on row 49. I can even use this to go back up, and there is the going across button on the corner. In Excel, you can have many different